Number one, ESPN finalists for Fighter of the Year. Yeah, I thought they kind of nailed it this year. I always sort of disagree with the list, and if you didn't see it, it's Cejudo, Cormier, Adesanya, and Amanda Nunez.
Yeah, so, I mean, they're four very, very worthy contestants. I mean, they're the four that would spring to mind. I mean, let's go through them. So you got Cejudo, obviously became a two-weight division champion. You got Cormier, who became a two-weight division champion. Of course, Cejudo beat Marlon Moraes last week, so it was kind of a vacant belt. Stopped Moraes in the third round. Very, very good performance against a very tough opponent. Cormier, of course, we know he was a long-time light heavyweight champion, lost it to Jones, had some kind of, that whole thing about the PEDs, moves up to heavyweight, while still the light heavyweight champion, knocks out Stipe in the first round, and then defends the heavyweight belt against Derek Lewis. That was a good performance. Adesanya, I don't know. I mean, Adesanya's had a rise to stardom like, we haven't seen since Conor McGregor in this sport, and he's looked absolutely sensational. And
it is starting to get impressive, too, when you look at it. It's Kelvin Gastelum now, Anderson Silva, Derek Brunson. I think a year ago when people were talking about Adesanya like he was the next coming of Christ, it was like, well, let's get him some fights. It now seems like he has those fights, and now he's officially signed to fight Whitaker. When is that fight, Harrington?
That fight is in October. On top of that, in this last year for Israel Adesanya, he had the record for most wins with 5 from February 11, 2018 to February 10, 2019.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, listen, he's clearly doing massive things in the sport. And then, of course, we've got Amanda Nunez, the bantamweight champion, went up there to featherweight, 145, and stopped in the first round in about a minute, knocked out Cyborg, did the unthinkable. A lot of people didn't think that was going to happen. She did it in style. It was an incredible fight. So I don't know. I mean, that's a really, really tough list to pick one. I mean, of course, we went through it and we were jesting about Cejudo being a triple champ, and he is, God bless him. It's a tough one. I mean, who do we pick? Who would you pick out of those four? Go.
I think it's pretty clear, in my opinion. You got to pick somebody who won 2 titles. So we automatically knock out Adesanya and Nunez. Nunez won 2. Yeah, I'm sorry. We automatically knock out Adesanya. And then I have to look at the level of competition and what they did. So I feel like, Cejudo, he's got to be out of there. He's not beating,
Well, hold on. Stop. Remember, he had TJ Dillashaw come down to his weight class. The dominant bantamweight champion came down to 125, and he knocked him out in about 30 seconds. So that's very, very good. And prior to that, he he beat Demetrius Johnson, which was incredible. Then he beats TJ Dillashaw.
Avenge the loss as well, which is incredible as well. Avenging that loss, that counts for something. In my mind, there's real value in avenging a loss. It doesn't erase it completely, but it shows where you've grown as a fighter, whether it's mentally, physically, whatever it is. Coming back and beating somebody that you had lost to in the past, it's almost, and you've talked about this in the past, it's almost more like mind fucking, knowing that this guy has beaten you and has the skills to beat you. So I didn't consider that as much. Now I'm even more torn because I was going to say Cormier because Cejudo's competition wasn't as strong, but I think it was as strong, to be honest.
No, for sure. They just weren't as big. Yeah. That's what you're thinking. You're looking at it and say, oh my God, he knocked out Stipe. He's so manly, he's so huge. He bears a resemblance to Michael Bisping. Anybody that knocks him out is going to be fighter of the year. I know that's what you're thinking.
Take my eyes off the screen.
Can't do it. But for Cejudo to beat Demetrius Johnson, I can't believe I'm saying this because I was going to say Cormier because knocking out the heavyweight champion in the first round is huge. But if you look at Cejudo, beat Demetrius Johnson, which was also avenging a loss, as you said. Demetrius, if not the best, in discussion for one of the best ever. Then he beats TJ Dillashaw, and then he wins the 135-pound belt on top of being an Olympic champion. I mean,
and Cormier lost to John Jones. You want to say, look, PEDs or not, he did. It wasn't this year, so that's not the issue. But you still have to sort of look at the fact that he did lose that title. He true champ.
Yeah, but hold on. I don't want to digitize too much, but if you're going to go down that route, I mean, Cejudo lost to Demetrius. Cejudo lost to Joseph Benavidez.
He avenged
it. He didn't avenge it against Joseph Benavidez. Amanda Nunez lost to Kat Zingano. They all have losses on their record. Now, of course, Cormier's were to Jones, and there was mitigating circumstances at best. The guy was on steroids. He did serve a suspension. Call it what you will. I don't know. I think it's either Cormier or Cejudo. Oh, there you go.
You almost have to give it to Cejudo. I feel like overall, when it's all said and done, that Cejudo's losses, the loss to Benavidez was a while ago. It wasn't like, and it didn't take. The reason I'm almost putting Cormier in the conversation is because he's champ. But there's a little bit of an asterisk with his champ title because.
Whoa. Stop saying champ.
I know.
You don't say that on the show. Come on.
Champ
Jesus
squared.
Christ, Lewis.
Champ squared.
Carry on.
But because he lost that title to John Jones, in my opinion, I feel like that's enough. It's not even that disparaging to Cormier. It just bumps Cejudo ahead. I feel like the resume what Cejudo has done in the past year is pretty goddamn impressive. I think the competition at these smaller weight classes, it's just not as deep of divisions. So it's sort of easier to get to that number one contender in those title shots. Whereas 205 heavyweight, heavyweight's not as deep of a talent pool either. But yeah, I'm going with Cejudo. I've leaned towards Cejudo. You've convinced me.
Well, I'm leaning towards Cormier now.
Just for no reason.
I'm not trying to convince you. I'm not making a case for Cejudo. I am stating
you
the
said
facts.
Cormier doesn't deserve it. No. Quote him on this, MMA Mania. Cormier does not deserve to be fighter of the year. Michael Bisping. That's it.
I never said that. Those words did not leave my mouth. Cormier, I'm the biggest fan of Cormier. Not as big as a fan of as Dana White is, but I'm a big fan of Cormier, right? The guy is a great person, great fighter, Olympic standard wrestler. Okay, didn't get the gold medal like Cejudo did, but still he was that guy. And now he's just a great person to be around. So I vote for Cormier. But when you look at Cejudo's, his accolades, it's hard to argue with that as well. So anyway, who knows? Good luck to ESPN, to the guys choosing that. It's a tough one to pick. And Amanda Nunez is definitely in there as well. Amanda Nunez is awesome. So yeah, well done to all four of them. I think just to be considered on the list for best fighter of the year is an amazing thing, Lewis. Yeah. And Adesanya, I think Adesanya definitely has to be the Fighters Only Mixed Martial Art Awards, the breakout star of the year for sure. International fighter of the year probably for sure as well. So he's got plenty of trophies and whatnot coming his way, as well as potentially the undisputed middleweight title, which has been announced. Is that correct? Whittaker versus Adesanya set for October in Australia. I mean, that's a massive fight down there in Australia because he's from New Zealand. He's Australian, so there's going to be a little bit of rivalry, a bit of bad blood there. So I can't wait to see that one.
Yeah, it's going to be a killer fight. And, if he really plays the cards right, he could probably bang my ex-girlfriend. So let's see if there's anything else on these notes that jumps out at me. Nothing really. I mean, Cejudo needs shoulder surgery, out for a minimum 4 to 5 months. Not going to see him again until New Year's Eve at the earliest. Okay. That's something that I think that people don't... Even my reaction there in that moment, I was like, okay. This guy, he's going through, like, his whole life is being a physical and fighting and defending this thing. He might be freaking out right now about this surgery. Maybe talk about that a little bit, because I don't think we think about the gravity of something like that where, is he going like, shit, what if my shoulder doesn't, what if the surgery doesn't work? What if it doesn't give me the fix that I need to give? What if I'm constantly in pain now? I mean, there's a different level of pressure there when you're relying on your body to make you your money.
Well, my initial thought, and again, it probably sounds like I'm being a company man. That's not what I'm thinking of. But my initial thought was, holy shit, for the people in those divisions and the UFC. You got to think that, the powers that be at the UFC, when they heard he was having surgery and Cejudo's going to be out for the rest of the year, they're like, fuck, they must have rolled their eyes a little bit, because all of a sudden now they got the bantamweight champion and the 125, what is that? Strawweight? Flyweight, pardon me. The flyweight champion, the bantamweight champion is holding those two divisions up until at least the end of the year, So it sucks for them and it sucks for all the fighters that are in those divisions. Now, if he needs surgery, which he did, and he had the surgery, then rightly so. And good for him, and I wish him a speedy recovery. But he's sitting on those two belts now for at least 9 months, 10 months, and everyone else in those divisions, even the flyweight division, they were talking about getting rid of that. And now the champ can't defend that. And when the champ does come back, he's probably going to defend it at bantamweight first, because it's easier. He doesn't have to make 125. So it's going to hold up the divisions. It really is. So that's a shame. But listen, this is a tough sport. Fighting is tough. Training for it is tougher. So, injuries happen. So, it's a sad state of affairs. But that's kind of the downside of the champ thing, of the 2-weight division champs,
right,
which is great. It makes massive stars and it's exciting for the viewer and for the fans. It captures your imagination. But the reality is, if a champion gets injured, then Jesus Christ, there's no belts on the line. I mean, let's just say Cejudo, Cormier, Nunez all get injured. That's 6 divisions that are held up for a while. You know what I mean? So I think from the UFC's perspective, that's why they're a little hesitant to do this as often as some fighters would like.
Harrington.
Well, but then, Mike, doesn't that add 6 interim titles, which could be the headliners for either fight nights or pay-per-view cards or co-main events?
Yeah, but it waters down what a title means, in my opinion. And I don't like how they sort of take it. Once again, we talked before about not wanting to be sheep. I don't like it. I feel like when you throw an interim title on a poster, they're just going, yeah, you don't fucking know the difference, dummy. Whatever. Come buy this pay-per-view.
Yeah, no, Harrington, I see your point, but in fact, I don't see your point. The UFC want their champions to fight. They don't want to have to create interim champions by default because their champions are injured. That's not what they're in the business of. Now, of course, the interim champions and titles do exist, but that's because the UFC have to move on, but they don't want to do that. They would rather the undisputed champion of the world fought the number one contender. That's what they want. That's the perfect scenario. Then sometimes people get injured. They're out for a while. Then they got to create interim titles. But that isn't the perfect scenario for anybody involved.
But I think that it is the side benefit of an interim title, though, is the fact that there's a bunch of casual fans that don't know the difference between an interim title and an actual title. So they get to go like, all right, well, if the image has a person with a title on their shoulder, the data's probably out there. They sell a certain percentage more pay-per-views than if they don't. They are always looking for a title fight on those cards. From the fighter perspective, though, it could sort of be good for everybody but the true number one contender. Everyone that's waiting around goes, oh shit, well now I might have an opportunity to impress somebody, get an interim shot where I might not have been right there for a title shot. Getting an interim title shot's a lot easier because number one, they got to pick 2 guys. And then number 2, I think it's just because it's not as prestigious, it's not the real title, I think that you're more likely to get put into one of those fights.
Yeah. Yep, maybe. And that is a good point as well. But as I say, UFC aren't looking for opportunities to create interim titles. That is the answer to a problem, So right. They'd rather they didn't have the issue in the first place. I mean, I'm assuming, but that seems logical. I'm not basing this on conversations I've had with the UFC, but one would assume if you crown someone champion, you want that champion to fight, and then they get injured. Fuck, we got a problem. We're going to fix the problem. What do we do? Well, we're going to log jam, so we'll create an interim title, and that guy's number one contender. These are solutions to problems. They are not dream scenarios. Nobody can argue that fucking sentiment.